Alright, my loves, this is going to be kind of like a hybrid, part yoga, part non-linear movement flow. I don't want you to focus too much on the yoga part of it. Yes, there may be some sort of yogic poses and stretches, but it's not about getting into like a perfect posture or doing every single thing that I'm doing. Really, I just want to encourage you to flow in an organic way while kind of following along with roughly what I'm doing, but in a way that feels right for your body. So I really want to emphasize, if I'm going into a particular stretch and it just feels ick in your body, or it hurts, or it's just, your body doesn't want to go that way, don't push, that's fine. What I'm going to be doing is just suggestions. There's also ways you can modify to make it feel accessible for your body and where you're at. And there will be, I'm sort of using yoga inspired poses as a way to strengthen and also stretch areas that are going to be relevant for what we're doing around pelvic floor work and enhancing circulation and pleasure and energy flow through that sort of sex center. There'll be hip openers, pelvic floor breathing, groin stretches, kind of everything that targets this hip psoas pelvic area. And then there's also going to be some non-linear movement just to like get us into that sort of habit of moving in an organic way that's outside of the normal ways that you would move your body day to day, because as we now know, it's incredible for your brain, neuroplasticity, and also just enhancing energy flow and pleasure potential in your body. So I would encourage you to get playful, feel silly, experiment with new ways to move your body, and take what I'm doing as a suggestion, an invitation, maybe just a guide, but honestly, it's up to you. There's going to be times where you've got a few minutes just to go nuts and shake it out, or move in any way that feels good for your body, and might put yourself into new shapes that you don't usually move into. So I'd love you to do this from start to finish at least once, and then you can of course use it regularly. You could do it every day, you could do it once a week, but you could also just take bits and pieces from it that you enjoyed and use those in your day-to-day. You might just do a bit of the pelvic floor relaxation belly breathing that we're going to do at the end, or you might do 5 minutes of shaking, or pelvic circles, or maybe some of the stretches that kind of get into those hip flexors and the psoas. You can take little bits and add them into your self-care, your daily routine, your morning routine before bed. You can do them in bed, some of it, so you don't have to do this entire thing from start to finish every single time to get the benefits of having, a little bit of non-linear movement and a little bit of pelvic focused movement and stretches in your life. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Okay, my loves, we're going to start standing up and just start circling your hips around slowly in one direction. So you can have your legs straight, or if this is tricky for balance, I know I was struggling a little bit, you can start to bend your knees as you just swoop your hips around in large circles, and then slowly spiral into doing small circles. You can bring your hips into it so that they're really rotating with gusto, and make the circles small and then large again. And then we're going to start going back in the other direction. So really large circles in the opposite direction, stretching out the backs of the legs and the front of the pelvis and hip flexors as you come forward on the circle. And slowly starting to make the circles smaller, spiraling inwards until they're just tiny little baby circles of the hips. And then bending the knees and starting to really rotate those hips and get them involved. few more large circles. And then coming to the center again, we're going to do figure 8. So bringing the hips forward to the one side, around, and then through the middle, around the other side. It's a bit tricky to explain, but just seeing what I'm doing in the video and forming your own figure 8 shape with your hips. And then we're going to wind up with the figure 8 in that direction and start going in the other direction, just reversing that movement. So coming back to center, we're going to do some hip thrusts. So you can bend your knees and just thrust, tucking that pelvis under in a forward motion. So squatting back, sticking your bum out, and then scooping the pelvis forward and under and doing a big thrust and coming back up to straight legs and just repeating that. You're almost imagining your hips are doing circles, but on that vertical plane. And then reverse that direction and start scooping your pelvis forward at the top and then bending your knees and pushing it backwards. So just kind of reversing that thrusting motion to do reverse thrusts. Now we're just going to do some little localized thrusts where we're going to bring the pubic bone and the ribs together, curling our torso forward in on itself, and then arching our back and sticking our bum and our hips out the back. So you can spend longer with these movements, the circles and the thrusts and all of those hip motions, but we're just getting familiar with that and starting to warm up this section of the body. And now we're going to move into some non-linear movements, so literally just flowing and throwing your body around in all sorts of different motions, putting it into different shapes. You know, it can be fast and erratic and wild and jiggly and jumpy and shaky like I'm doing. It could be a lot slower and more about stretching in different shapes and directions, but just play with it. Just sort of move your body in ways that you don't usually, and maybe use your body as a guide. What feels good? What shape does it want to be in? What needs to be stretched and in what direction? Do you just need to stand and jiggle and shake, you know? So just warming the body up and really exploring movement in a very organic, non-linear fashion. Don't be afraid to make some noise and be silly, playful. Let out some grunts or growls or shrieks or a sigh. Start making sounds in accordance with what your body's doing or what your breath's doing. And I'd also highly recommend pausing the video and just doing this for an extra few minutes in your own time until you really feel like you've had a good solid set, and then coming back to this video. And just slowly bringing yourself back into stillness, hopping back on your mat if you've strayed. And we're just going to put our feet directly underneath our hips. I'm going to put our hands out in front of us just to balance and just slowly squat back. So bring your hips down towards your ankles as low as you can go, squatting, and then from that place standing up slowly as well. We're just going to do a few of these squats. This is incredible for pelvic floor health and strength. It tones the pelvic hammock, brings blood flow to the area. Humans were designed to squat a lot more than we are meant to be sitting, so the more you can squat, the better for your pelvic floor. So just coming into like a mid squat and sitting there, just hanging out there for a little while. Another thing you can do, which you can pause the video to go and do, is find a tree or a pole post and then put your hands around it, lace your fingers, and then use that as support as you squat down and just walk your hands up and down the pole, because I know squatting isn't great for everybody's bod. So feel free to pause the video and do more of that squatting practice. And then once you're done that, coming into a low squat position with your feet wide and your toes pointing slightly outwards, diagonally, in line with your knees. Bring your bottom down as low as you can and just hang out in this squat for a little while. And then rolling onto your bottom and rolling over your spine with your legs over your head a couple of times, just to give that spine a little bit of a massage as you roll over it on the mat. We're going to come into a seated position and just place the hands on your belly and take some slow, deep breaths, just feeling your belly expand underneath your hands. You can even give your jaw a little massage here, just to start loosening some things off. So keep breathing deeply into the belly like this, and if your pelvic floor feels okay to do this, we're going to do some pelvic squeezes. So on the inhale, expanding the belly and pushing your hands up. And then on the exhale, we're going to just draw those pelvic floor muscles inside your vagina up and squeeze them. And then on the inhale, we're going to release. And then on the exhale, we're going to squeeze. So every exhale, just drawing up, pulling up, squeezing those pelvic floor muscles, and then releasing when you begin to inhale again. So releasing on the inhale, squeezing and drawing up on the exhale. Because the diaphragm actually expands and squashes all of your intestines and everything and puts downward pressure on your pelvic floor on an inhale, it's actually easier to squeeze on the exhale because there's more space due to the diaphragm not being expanded and pushing down on all of your organs. So now we're going to come into a butterfly pose with the soles of your feet together, knees butterflied out. You can sit up straight, holding your hands around your feet, or you can curl your spine over to give you a deeper stretch. And this is just going to get into the groin. You can rock side by side a little bit if that feels okay on your hips. And then you're going to come over onto all fours. I'm just blowing some bull ants off my yoga mat, picking a wedgie, and then we're coming to all fours. Now we're going to do some cat-cow curls. So knees under hips, hands under shoulders, and on every inhale you're going to drop the belly and the chest and look up, arch the back, stick your bum up in the air, and then on the exhale you're going to curl under, tucking the pelvis, drawing your belly in, looking down and pushing up through your shoulders to round the upper back. Inhaling to arch the back and look up, and exhaling to curl underneath. So once you've done a few of these cat-cow curls to stretch out the spine, you're just going to really organically start to move into some non-linear movement. So this could look like all sorts of things. Feel free to check out what I'm doing as inspiration. You can also pause the video again to just have your own little flow and not be distracted by me. And just staying on hands and knees or low to the ground, just moving yourself around in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways, and with the intention to stretch and move in different ways that your body doesn't normally do, it's not already used to, it's not already in those movement patterns. I like to aim for the movements to also feel like they're stretching me, as well as using a range of motion that's quite different to my usual motions, and just get weird. Just, you can come onto your knees, you can crawl around, you can do some, if you're into animal flow. Just play with it. Don't worry about what you look like. Just notice what it feels like in your body. And don't forget to use your sound. So letting out sighs, using your breath really consciously, making noise, making the noise that your body wants to make, that those shapes want to express. Making sounds that express how it feels in your body when you move like this. Maybe it's primal, maybe it's really soft. Your movements might be quite slow or gentle. But just try to be creative with it, and if you find yourself falling into a pattern of doing the same few movements or motions, see if you can get out of that cycle and mix it up. Find a new thing to do, a new way to move your body. You can just be literally rolling around on the floor if you like. So now coming slowly back to all fours, making any last little wiggles or movements or stretches. And you can just circle around your hips and shoulders. You can be sexy with it, make it sensual, or you can make it more animalistic. It could be fiery or it could be tender. But from all fours, now we're going to bring one of our legs, doesn't really matter, just bring it forward next to your hand, on the outside of your hands, and you're just going to, if it's okay for your hips, just rock and roll around a little bit. See what I'm doing, and just keep that back knee down for the safety of your hips. You can bring your foot outwards a little bit, point the toes slightly out on a diagonal, and then just roll your knee outwards so that you're getting into that groin area, the hip flexors. And again, that movement is possible in my body. It might not be safe for you to do that, so just feel into your limits, feel where your edge is, listen to your body. You might do this as a static pose where you just really gently roll out that knee to stretch into your hips and your groin. You might just hold still and breathe into it to get the stretch. And then we're going to straighten that front leg, rock back onto that heel, and then rock backwards and forwards, straightening the leg and then bending the knee. And straightening the leg and then bending the knee and coming forward. You can put your hands on your knee and just stay there, drawing the front foot and the back knee energetically towards one another to keep that pelvic floor nice and held in. You can lift your arms up above your head if that feels comfortable, or just leave them on the knee if that's easier for your balance. And just breathing here as you stretch into that front leg, getting into the hip flexors of that back leg. And then placing your hands down on either side of that front foot and moving back to all fours to swap over legs. And we're going to do it on the other side. So you can angle that toe diagonally out to the side, You can roll around, move forwards and backwards. You can just gently and gradually bring that knee out. You can use a hand to sort of place on the knee and really gently push it outwards, if it feels okay for your hips, of course. But don't listen to me too much, just find what your body needs and what feels good, what movement and what stretch feels good, whether there is movement, whether you're just statically holding the pose. And don't push too far. You don't want to go over your edge and hurt yourself. That's how injuries happen in yoga. So we're going to straighten the leg and rock onto that front heel, come forward and rock back and forth a couple of times before coming into a low lunge. On that second leg, you can place your hands on the knee and just hold there, drawing the front leg and the back leg together so that your pelvic floor is protected. You can raise your arms above your head, you can arch the spine, clasp the hands behind you for a chest opener at the same time. Whatever feels good for you, but if you're not experienced with yoga poses already, then just play it safe. And then coming onto all fours again, we're going to bring the knees out, the toes together, touching, and just drawing ourselves back, bum resting on the heels, hands out in front of us for child's pose. And we're going to rest in wide-legged child's pose for a while and just take some deep breaths. So your knees will be out wide, your toes will be in, your belly will be resting in between your thighs. And breathing deeply into your belly. And then we're going to come over to lie on the belly, coming out of child's pose, and just placing your hands, your arms underneath your head to the side, and you're gonna rock your hips back and forth, side to side, lying front down on the mat. You can clench and unclench your bum cheeks quickly so that it sort of jiggles really fast. You can waggle your hips up and down, left to right, just basically moving your bum and your hips around while you're lying on your tummy. And then you're just gonna bump your bum, sort of thrust into the mat up and down, just sort of hump the mat. It might feel a little bit funny, but yeah, go from humping the mat to rocking back and forth to jiggling to clenching in fast succession, and just play around a little bit and see if you can feel it loosening things up, softening things, maybe activating some energy in that pelvic floor area, maybe bringing blood flow to the area and a little bit more awareness and sensation. And then we're going to bring one of our knees up, out to the side, in line with our hips. Rotating your hips from this place, so doing circles with your bum and your hips in one direction, with that knee sort of drawn up to the side. You can reverse that motion, do circles in the other direction. Just working into the hips so that it's nice and fluid and we get lots of good blood flow in there. And then you're going to start thrusting the hips underneath you, so just forward and back, thrusting the hips, staying in that position that you're in. You can do it fast, you can slow them right down, and just focus your awareness on the pelvic bowl. You can also do a bit of twerking, so jiggling quite quickly. If you thrust really quickly, you get that jiggle happening. It's like you're twerking or humping really fast and you get a bit of momentum up with your flesh. It's quite a satisfying feeling. You're going to bring the leg back down and pop the other leg up on the other side. So bringing the knee roughly in line with your hip, a bit lower if you can't get it that high, and slowly starting to rotate the hips in those circular movements. And we're going to circle in one direction. You can vary the speed. You could be making some moans or sighs or sounds as you do this. And going around in the other direction now. And remember, with the sound, it's really helpful to make sound to get the vibrations and the opening in your throat and your mouth and your jaw while we're doing stretches and opening things in the pelvic space as well, because of the connection between the two. So you're going to start thrusting and humping the mat. You can get a bit of pace going to have a bit of a jiggle and a twerk. And you can just alternate between thrusting and tucking the pelvis under and then arching the back and sticking your bum out and doing that fast-paced jiggle. Hump the mat. Then bring the leg back down to meet the other leg, and we're going to roll over onto our backs now. Placing your feet flat on the mat underneath the knees, you're going to bring your left ankle and put it on your right knee, and then you're going to thread your hands through to clasp around that right shin and draw the leg in towards the chest. So you're getting a nice stretch in that left side. And you're just going to hold this for a few moments and breathe in reclined pigeon pose. After a few breaths there, we're going to swap sides, bringing the right ankle over onto the left knee, lacing your hands through to grab that left knee or shin or even thigh and drawing it in towards your chest to get a stretch on the right side. Making sure you keep that lower back and sacrum flat on the mat. And again, just don't push too far into your edge. So then you're going to bring both feet back onto the mat, underneath your knees, parallel to your hips, hands down by your sides, and just start curling your tailbone under, bring your hips up so that you're a nice flat line from your knees to your shoulder, and just holding in bridge pose. And then on every exhale, you're going to roll your spine vertebrae by vertebrae back down until your hips and sacrum and bum are on the floor again. And then again, tucking that tailbone, rolling up into bridge. Couple of times, and then you're just going to hold in bridge pose for a little while before bringing your sacrum back down to the floor. You can do a few little motions where you're tucking your pelvis under and then arching your spine, so like little thrusts from this position on your back, arching the spine and then thrusting up, arching the spine and then tucking the pelvis under. Rock the hips from side to side. Move that pelvis around. And then we're just going to have the feet firmly planted on the ground and start bumping that sacrum on the mat in a fast motion. So you'll hear like a little thud, 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 thud as the sacrum thuds on the ground gently. And definitely I'd encourage you to let out some sound here. Just let anything be shaken loose with this motion, with this impact. And letting out a sigh and exhale.
And then coming into stillness, you can bring the soles of your feet together in Supta Konasana. Let the knees just flop outwards. Place a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart, and just taking some slow, deep belly breaths. Imagining that inhale is pushing your hand up as your belly expands. See how deeply you can breathe. Can you breathe air all the way down into your womb? You're going to inhale, expanding the belly as far as it'll go, and then expanding the chest at the end of the inhale till you're all full up with air. And then you're going to gradually let the belly drop under your hand and then the chest deflate. So this kind of method of breathing where you're inflating the belly, letting that expand, and then expanding the chest, and then deflating the belly, deflating the chest, letting it drop. You can then straighten out your legs, placing your hands over your womb, over where your ovaries are, or on the lower belly. And we're actually just going to marry this sort of deep belly breath with some pelvic actions. So a really great way to bring focus and awareness into the pelvic floor muscles is lying in Shavasana like this. If you need, you can bring your legs closer together or let them flop further apart, depending on your pelvic floor muscle strength at this point. And as we were doing before, on the inhale, expanding the belly, letting the diaphragm really take up space. And then on the exhale, you're going to squeeze the pelvic floor muscles, draw them up and in, and just hold them for a beat at the bottom of your exhale. And then start inhaling again, release the pelvic floor muscles. So we're gonna inhale to expand the belly, exhale to draw the pelvic floor muscles in and up. Release them on the inhale, and then on the exhale, squeeze them in and hold for a second. And you can experiment with holding the pelvic floor muscles and your breath just for a little bit at the bottom of the exhale, and then really intentionally letting them relax when you begin to inhale. And just do this. You can use some sound, sighing on the exhale as you clench the pelvic floor muscles. And even if you can't feel whether you're engaging these muscles or not, just have the attention on that space inside your vagina and consciously intend to be engaging them, giving them some attention, putting your energy there, and just seeing if you can get a sense for where they all are, what they might feel like if you did start to squeeze them a little bit. And then if you're finding it hard to soften them and know what it feels like for them to relax, have the intention that on the in-breath you are relaxing, releasing, your belly is expanding with air, your diaphragm's dropping down, the pelvic floor muscles are letting go, softening, opening. And just doing this for as long as you like. You can stop the video whenever you're ready. You can do this for a couple more minutes. You can then release the pelvic squeezes and just lie in Shavasana, breathing, putting your attention on your entire pelvic space. How do your hips feel? How does your groin feel? Can you notice any sort of pulsation or energy or tingling or even just a subtle awareness inside your vagina? And whenever you're ready, you can draw this practice to a close and slowly roll onto one side and just really gently moving into the rest of your day.